Hey everyone, in 2020, LEGO introduced the helmet line for Star Wars with a release of 3 sets, and since then, there have been 11 more helmets released, and today, I will be ranking all 14 LEGO Star Wars helmet sets. So sit back, relax, and let me know in the comments which helmet sets you like, and if there is any spot on this list that you agree or disagree with. So without further ado, let's get started with number 14. I have the Dark Trooper helmet set. Even though this is technically not a helmet, it is the only droid represented in the helmet collection. It was released in the third wave of helmet sets in 2022 and retailed for $70. Of all the helmets, I think it is the least exciting compared to the others. Now the build does look good and pretty accurate. I like the red eyes as well as the design of the bottom half of the helmet. Now, with it being technically not a helmet, it is an outlier in this helmet line, and I wonder why the Dark Trooper was chosen. Maybe there should be a droid head collection. But overall, it is a good looking helmet, but I think it's the weakest of the collection, and as I said earlier, it is technically not a helmet, so I feel that should bring it down the list. Next, at the number 13th spot, the Stormtrooper helmet is the set I chose. It retailed for $60 and was part of the first wave of helmet sets in 2020. The Imperial Stormtrooper is an iconic trooper from Star Wars, so it makes sense the helmet was among the first to release. The design does a good job at getting the look of the Stormtrooper and the shape of the helmet. I especially like the cheek tubes with the slopes leading down to the bottom where the comlink and air exhausts are. The mouth area is not the most accurate looking, looks a bit short compared to the actual helmet, but I think that's just because of the design. One thing about this, and a couple helmet sets on this list like the Dark Trooper, it does have a heavy stud look at the top, and that's one thing that always kind of bugs me a bit, and here it is pretty prominent. And I think that's something other helmet designs did better. I think it's a solid build overall, not the best, but it contributed to a good start for the helmet line. At number 12, I chose Luke Skywalker's Red 5 helmet. This set was released in 2022 and retailed for $70. It is a pretty good design with all the decals all around and has all the features like the mic, visor, and chin strap. The top of the helmet with the Rebel logos and like the red section in the middle looks good, and it breaks up that heavy stud look. This is another outlier in this helmet line where, it is an open helmet with no Luke head. The middle is empty. Now, I'm trying to decide if this helmet would look better with Luke's head, but probably not. The face would probably end up looking funny and pretty creepy. It is a solid design. The helmet looks really good, and I like all the inclusion of all the decals and markings and just the detail of the helmet, and it's a pretty accurate look. Moving on, Boba Fett's helmet was released in 2020 and retailed for $60. This is coming in at the number 11th spot. There's a few details with this build that I really like. On top of the helmet, there is a small section of light bluish gray parts for the blaster mark on the helmet. It's a must-have detail that is unique to Boba's helmet. I like the side of the helmet where the yellow markings are. The design to have it brick built rather than stickers is a cool look, and it gives it a more smooth look with not many studs. On the other side is the rangefinder, which can move down. It's a more simple design compared to, the rangefinders that we'll see later on in the video, but it still, does get the look. Now for the main visor area, I like the design, but the red tiles in the middle, though, do create a thin gap on each side that breaks up the red section, which looks a little bit off. Overall, I like this Boba Fett helmet. It does have that heavy stud look, but it does have a little bit of accent color that breaks it up a bit. And like I said, I do really like the yellow markings on the side. With this one being one of the 3, first helmet sets, I think this is also a good addition alongside that Stormtrooper, and it does get the look down of Boba Fett. At number 10, I have the Mandalorian helmet. It retails for $70 and was released in 2022. Now with this helmet, I gotta start with probably the highlight for me, and that is the metallic silver pieces. I mean, it looks amazing with that shine, and of course accurate for Mando's helmet. So compared to other Mandalorian helmets, such as Boba's or Jango's, the T-visor on Mando's helmet is slightly different than those two in terms of it's a lot more of a thin look, and even in comparison to the Boba's helmet that we saw earlier, it's still about kind of the same width. And you'll see when I talk about Jango's helmet that the design is pretty much the same. So I think it should have been a little bit more thin for a more accurate look and to, separate it from those other 2 Mandalorian helmets. But there is the small outwards part at the bottom, which is good, and that is different from the other 2 helmets. Overall, the helmet still does look good. I just love the metallic silver pieces, and there are a good amount of them too. And of course, the helmet still resembles the Mandalorian. Moving on to number 9, I have Jango Fett's helmet, which is one of the newer helmets. It was released earlier this year in 2025 and retails for $70. And here you can see that it is pretty much almost the same design, at least the same design in the visor as the Mandalorian helmet. So you can see how, it's a little bit of an accurate on the Mandalorian's part, but it makes sense because the Mandalorian was, the latest design that LEGO had released in the helmet collection. And I think the design fits more here for Jango than Mando. Now, Boba's helmet is the choice here to compare, and this one coming after 5 years, so there are improvements in, techniques and the design for Jango's helmet. So I want to start with the visor first, and like Boba's, it's still not the most accurate, but it does get rid of those gaps that I talked about earlier, and I think the width of the visor here is good. So in regards to the gaps, I think it is a trade-off, but I do like the look better here. The overall shaping of the helmet is improved as well, where the sides of the helmet are at a bit of an angle, a little outwards, which is a more accurate look, rather than, the helmet just going straight down like Boba's did. The rangefinder does have an improved design with the use of more pieces, and of course it can move down. It's always an accurate play feature, and of course, it adds a little extra to the helmet. The top part of the helmet has a few slopes to break up the full stud look. I like the design of this helmet overall. It is an improvement from Boba's helmet design. There are also a good amount of stickers in the set, pretty much all along like the top where the T visor meets the top of the helmet. I think there should have been at least a couple of printed pieces. But yeah, I honestly do really think that this helmet looks great. And this really has been the year of Jango Fett, a UCS Slave 1, play scale as well, and now the helmet. I mean, it's great to see. Captain Rex, a lot of people's favorite clone, and one of my favorite clones for sure, and is a character for sure worthy of getting a helmet set. This is the number 8th spot. It came out in 2023 and retailed for $70. Now, LEGO went with Phase 2 Rex, and I mean, either one is a good choice, and I assume LEGO wanted to do both, and that's probably why they did Commander Cody as Phase 1, which I'll get to Cody later. The helmet design is pretty good, getting the mix of the Phase 1 and Phase 2, and having the welding marks shown with stickers. The top of the helmet has the Jade Eyes, which is a Mandalorian sigil, and I think they are well represented here using a mix of, slope pieces and wedge plates. It looks really cool, and on the side of the helmet there are some stickers that have the tally marks. So those are some good details to have, and it does help break up the stud look on top. Now there is one issue with this helmet, and that is the mouth area. The grill section is way too small. It does not look the best here. It just looks really odd, and I wish it was a little bit more accurate looking. The rangefinder is an upgraded design compared to the Boba one, and pretty similar to Jango's. So it was pretty hard to rank Rex and Jango, which one did I want to put ahead of the other? It went back and forth, but I ultimately chose Rex because I like, the amount of detail here, like the J guys at the top. And, both helmets do, slightly have inaccurate mouth areas. So both of these helmets are ranked very close. So overall, this helmet does look good. The mouth area being small obviously looks odd, but doesn't ruin the whole helmet for me. And I do really want this helmet because Captain Rex is awesome. And I do think that this is a solid, not perfect depiction of Captain Rex's helmet. And next up is Commander Cody's helmet. This is at the number 7th spot. And like I said earlier when talking about Rex, LEGO went with the Phase 1 for Cody here. And I'm glad they did, so both are represented. And Cody would have had that small mouth as well had they went Phase 2. The set was released alongside Captain Rex in 2023 and it retailed for $70. So here with this build, the mouth area does look better. It is still small compared to the actual helmet, but because it is a little bit different from the Phase 2 helmet, I think it works a little bit better here. And honestly, the piece usage with the 2 wedge tiles at the bottom gets the shape perfectly. It's just not long enough. But it still looks good. It doesn't look as off or odd to me. The chin/jaw area looks good with the various slope pieces to get the shape of the Phase 1 helmet. I like the features of the helmet as well, such as the fin on top, the visor, and the helmet attachment piece that sticks up. This is honestly a good depiction of Phase 1 Cody, and I do really like the overall design. And both clone helmets do look really good. I just have Cody over because the mouth area just doesn't look as off. And this helmet is one I for sure want to add to my collection. At number 6, the helmet is one of the best villains ever, Darth Vader. The set retailed for $80, making it the highest priced helmet set here, and it was released in 2021. So with this helmet, it is a very heavy stud look, and Vader's helmet is, very smooth, so I would have loved some more tiles, or at least something to break up, like some other sets do. The design is pretty faithful to the source material, you know, with the shaping of the helmet, both the face and the actual structure, like having these sides and back angled outwards. And the front of the helmet with the, you know, face and mouth area looks pretty phenomenal, honestly. It really does capture the terrifying look of Darth Vader. So in the mouth area, the two grill pieces in that triangle section only take up the top part, but on the actual helmet, those, you know, grills, or the grill look takes up that entire section. So it is an accurate look, but even then, I think it's a good enough size to where it doesn't look that odd to me. And I think that's because the area around it is a pretty accurate shape. I'm starting to see a little bit of a common theme here with some of these helmet sets where they have a more smaller mouth area, but here with Darth Vader, like I said, it doesn't look that bad to me with the overall accurate look of the helmet. But this helmet does look very good. I think it's a very great design for Darth Vader's helmet, and it really does capture the menacing and terrifying look of the Dark Lord himself. Next up at number 5, the grandson of Darth Vader and the first sequel set for the helmets, Kylo Ren. So this is one of the most recent helmet sets released, which came out on May 1st, 2025. It released alongside Jango Fett's helmet. And I think Kylo Ren was the perfect choice for, you know, the first sequel helmet set, as I think the character is definitely a highlight of the sequel trilogy. This build looks really good. I mean, it has a very accurate look. The shaping on the front nose / chin area and the visor is like about perfect. And I love the amount of printed pieces making up the design on the front, with that metallic silver too that just gives it that shine. And it's kind of crazy because this released alongside Jango's, and Jango's has a bunch of stickers, so I don't know why LEGO wasn't consistent there. The shaping of the back of the helmet has a slight slanted look. The on-screen helmet is a little bit more of a wider look. It's a little bit more prominent compared to what we see here, but I'm glad that the design still acknowledged that look. Overall, this helmet looks phenomenal. It is very faithful to the source material. I like the printed elements, and it is definitely a great addition to the helmets, and I really do want to pick this one up. Moving on, Princess Leia's Boushh helmet is at the number 4th spot. It was released in 2023 and retailed for $70. This helmet is a pretty unique one to get. It was for the 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi, so it does make sense. And I mean, the helmet line is the opportunity to get different helmets, even if they aren't the most iconic. Now, compared to other helmet sets, this is a pretty smooth build. There's not many studs on top, and that's due to the heavy slope and tile design. It gets the structure of the helmet for the most part, and I think it does a good job at recreating the source material. It's not 100% accurate. The actual helmet looks a little bit wider, whereas the front part of this helmet looks a little bit thin compared to that. But this helmet still looks great. I think it is one of the best helmets. It just has a lot of detail. I like the greebling on each side of the helmet, and the top of the helmet as well, with that dark green section and the different design elements at the top too. It's a great helmet. I really like the smooth look. I'd say for sure that this is one of the more underrated helmet sets, because the actual helmet, you know, probably isn't the most exciting or interesting compared to other ones on this list, but I really do think that this is a great looking build and that it is one of the best helmet sets. Coming in at the 3rd spot, it is the Scout Trooper helmet. It came out in 2021 in the second wave of helmet sets and retailed for $50, making it the cheapest of the helmets. This is the only helmet set that is $50, and same with the Darth Vader one. That's the only one that's $80, so majority of these helmet sets are $70. This helmet really does look phenomenal. It is a very accurate design. I want to start with the visor here because the design gets the shape perfectly. The only thing that is off is it doesn't look like it has a perfect connection to the rest of the helmet. There's just like a couple of small gaps in between that visor and the rest of the helmet. Just something I noticed and wanted to point out, but it doesn't look bad at all. The Scout Trooper's helmet always looked so cool, and this design did a very good job at recreating it. I feel like this is very accurate to the source material and is a great looking build. Next up at number 2, I have the TIE Pilot helmet. This set was released in 2020 and retailed for $60. This was part of the first wave, and compared to Boba and the Stormtrooper, I think this one is the best of that wave and a better design than the Stormtrooper. Now, obviously they are different helmets, but the Stormtrooper is the helmet here that's the closest to kind of compare between the two. Now, the mouth area here is the same as the Stormtrooper, so I'll say the same thing where it's probably not the most accurate, but I think it works better here because it blends in with the all black look of the helmet. And there also are a few more features here than the Stormtrooper, so it could help complement the look. One of my favorite parts about this set, and probably the highlight for me honestly, are the tubes at the bottom. I'm very glad that they're included here. It's an extra detail and definitely accurate. I really like the more tiled look at the top. You know, there's not many studs showing. The two Imperial logos logos look really good. Those are printed pieces, and I think those are definitely an added factor as to why this set, got very expensive after it retired. I really like the details on the helmet, and it's a great looking build. And at number 1, the AT-AT Driver helmet was one of the 3 new helmet sets that were released in 2025, and it retails for that common price of $70. This is a really great build. It was the first helmet set that I got because this one was hard to pass up. I wanted it to go with my UCS AT-AT as another reason. Now, the building process for this helmet was fun, and I think different from others. I had made sure to research, some of the building processes to compare, and yeah, this one is different from others. You're building a lot more smaller sections, and you just continuously, add to the helmet until it's completed. It was very fun to do, and I really like how each section connects perfectly. There really aren't any gaps. I love the detail and accurate design, especially the mouth and visor area. This is a better design than the Stormtrooper one and the TIE Pilot, as they are, pretty similar. I think the mouth section here isn't that small. I think it's actually a good size, and I really like the usage of the wedge plates to get the shape. On the back are 2 canisters that usually have the tubes connecting to the chest plate, and I would have liked if there were the tubes like the TIE Pilot, but I am okay that they aren't in here because it doesn't take away from the look or anything. It just would have been a nice extra detail. The only complaint that I have about this set is the amount of stickers. There are a good amount, and they're both big and small, like on the top of the helmet, and some of the stickers are ones that connect to each other, so you kind of have to place them good. And like the TIE Pilot, there are the 2 Imperial logos on the top, and I really like them in the red color. Overall, this is a phenomenal helmet. It's very accurate. I love the detail and the design, of the visor and mouth area. I think this is the best looking, Imperial helmet and the best Lego Star Wars helmet. Anyways, that is the full ranking of every Lego Star Wars helmet that has been released. I had a really fun time making this video, spending a lot of time looking at the helmet sets. I hadn't really paid much attention to the helmets before this year. My interest in them has been increasing all year and has definitely increased more after doing this video, so comment below which sets are your favorite and if there are any spots on this list that you agree or disagree with. The helmet line looks to be in good shape with this year getting 3 new sets, so I am looking forward to seeing what other helmets Lego makes. Anyways, definitely lightsaber slash that like button and subscribe with post notifications on so you know when I upload. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a great day, and until next time, peace.